Hey everyone, first of all, I do apologize if you hear any boom boom sounds. Those are going to be like notifications, and all that text messaging because I'm recording this on my phone. And I do apologize if you hear a big old boom sound. That'll be my bank telling me something got declined, but I don't think we have to worry about that right now. But I did want to come on here, and also I do apologize if I sound a little blah at times. I got some allergy. I got like a tickle in my throat, allergy, if you will. So I do apologize for that. But I did want to come on here and talk about something that a lot of people have been talking about when it comes to this past Sunday. Now, this past Sunday, we had WWE through the NXT brand going head-to-head with AEW. And basically, the difference between the two shows is, one, you had a history-making main event where you had Trick Williams, the NXT WWE superstar, winning the TNA World title from Joe Hendry. And the other difference between the two is Battleground only went the approximate time, trying to find the right words, the approximate time that it was allotted to. Basically, it fit everything into the 2 hour plus time slot and pretty much was done. And if you want to prefer a show lengthwise over another, people are going to prefer Battleground because the big discussion point that got people talking this past Sunday was the length of AEW Double or Nothing and overall the length of a lot of the pay-per-views as of late. Now, it's understandable. It is understandable that if you're doing a pay-per-view or PLE that is essentially your Super Bowl, like WrestleMania, like back in the day with, Starrcade, WCW, or let's say with TNA, Bound for Glory, and Slammiversary, doing those shows, it is excusable. It is excusable to go, beyond a certain time length, if you will, runtime length, to get everything in and show how big and important this show is to the talent involved, as well as to the fans. So that's understandable. When you do it for your big, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, like shows, it's understandable. And the same with WWE. It's understandable that they do it at WrestleMania. It's understandable if they do it at Royal Rumble. It's understandable if they do it at SummerSlam and to an extent Survivor Series. It's understandable. And you can even, I guess you could say, lodge in Money in the Bank if you want. Throw Money in the Bank in there if you want to. But still, the original Big Four, it's an exception. It's excusable. It's excusable to do that because they know how to manage time. They know how to manage time to where, there is a reason why the event will be going for so long, especially when it comes to the matches and the stories involved. AEW in the past would, have long shows, but they would have reasons for it. But most of those long shows wouldn't go anywhere beyond, the 3 hour mark. Like they might go 3.5 hours, 3 hours, 15 minutes, but they would be, just enough to where everybody got the opportunity to shine. The matches that, centered around certain storylines got the allotted time needed and everything went off without a hitch. Everybody would go home, happy, that being the crowd, the wrestlers, you name it. But it seems that lately, Tony Khan has been going the Vince McMahon route when it comes to, let's say, WrestleMania in the past. Because when Vince McMahon used to be in charge, before the WrestleMania COVID situation, which basically led to the unexpected but very welcome two-night presentation of WrestleMania, which is now migrated to us having now a two-night SummerSlam in August, basically in the past, before that, every WrestleMania would run for almost 8 to 10 hours from beginning to end. And that's including and counting, the kickoff show, which would have some matches on there as well. So from beginning to end with the 1 or 2 matches on the kickoff show, and then the 10 more matches on the main show, you were looking at a long allotted time of 8+ hours. Basically, you were looking at the equivalent, if you will, of a workday on a Sunday evening watching WrestleMania. And thankfully, that all came to an end when they had to go the 2-night route, pre-taped and everything, because of COVID. Now, you might say, well, why are you thankful for that? Basically, it was in an empty warehouse. I understand that. But as the old saying goes, there's always a silver lining. You got to look at the silver lining. And despite the fact that we were all locked up unnecessarily, now that we know the truth, or getting to know the truth, thanks to our certain administration in charge of the country, despite how you feel about them or not, basically you have to look at you got to find a silver lining in the darkness, and that's what we found. That's what we found basically, or at least WWE found, when they realized, hey, a 2-night WrestleMania might work, and it did. It did, believe it or not. Now, not only did that work in WWE's favor, but it made WrestleMania, no matter how good or bad it could be, more tolerable to watch. And it's only gotten better over time, because now you have people like Triple H realizing that, yeah, the 2-night event can be utilized to put about 5 to 6 matches on there, and give it the allotted and give those matches, storylines centered around them or not, the allotted time necessary, to do the thing. Now, with that said, what does this have to do with AEW? Well, like I said, Tony Khan seems to be going the Vince McMahon route that Vince used to go basically back, back basically almost 6 years ago. 6 years ago, believe it or not, was the last time we had a long-ass WrestleMania. I'm just saying. But the point I'm getting at, to get straight to the point, Tony Khan is doing that now on a consistent basis with his pay-per-views. I mean, it's one thing. It's one thing to basically have your shows, go have your WrestleMania-like events go a certain time. Go for an extended length. That's understandable, because those are your big shows. It's understandable if TNA does that for Slammiversary next month. It's understandable if AEW does do it for All In Texas in July. It's understandable if TNA does it for Bound for Glory in October. It's understandable, basically. I don't know what the GCW event is. That's the equivalent of WrestleMania. But it's understandable if their event goes a certain length amount, because that event has reasoning. It has importance. It is the showcase, if you will. The yearly showcase, the Super Bowl, if you will. It's understandable if WCW did it with Starrcade back in the day, or ECW did it for what? What was their equivalent of a WrestleMania? What was it? November to Remember? Or Heatwave? One of the two? I think it was November to Remember. But excuse me there. But anyway, it's understandable if they went long in the hours, if you will, with those events, because those have meaning. Those are special meanings, if you will. Those are the WrestleManias, the Super Bowls, the NBA Finals, the World Series. That has a reasoning. That has an excuse to go the length and amount that it can. But when you decide to constantly do it, when you decide to constantly do it, pay-per-view after pay-per-view after pay-per-view after pay-per-view after pay-per-view, no matter what time zone of the country you're on, when you decide to just go, long in the tooth, pay-per-view after pay-per-view after pay-per-view, it loses its meaning. It loses its speciality. And it becomes annoying and a nuisance to not just the fans watching at home that have paid $50 or so to watch it, but it becomes annoying and a nuisance to those in attendance. And surprisingly, it also becomes annoying and a nuisance to the talent that's there. Yeah, the talent expects to go home after their match is done. And maybe they do. Or go back to the hotel. And maybe they do. Or maybe they'll wait till everybody leaves so we can have an after party or whatever. I don't know. But it becomes annoying and a nuisance, even to the roster. Especially those that are waiting for the opportunity to go out there and shine. And this is what Vince McMahon, when he was running WWE, pre-COVID, was doing. He didn't realize that the talent wanted to be done. They wanted to go home. They wanted to get that match out of the way, go back to the hotel, sleep it off, take a flight, or sleep it off, wake up the next morning, get some breakfast, kind of have some time to themselves and head to the arena in the same town where WrestleMania was at to be part of the post-WrestleMania show edition of Monday Night Raw. He didn't take that into consideration. Thankfully, again, the silver lining is that basically he saw that a two-night WrestleMania would work and actually gain him favoritism. And guess what? Triple H has continued keeping that going as well and improved on it by basically limiting even the matches that take place on the two-night WrestleManias and giving importance to the WrestleManias that deserve, not WrestleManias, but to the matches at WrestleMania that deserve them. But with Tony Khan, he's doing this over and 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 over again. And it's annoying not just the fans at home. It's annoying but it's also annoying the fans in attendance and the wrestlers in the locker room that have yet to have their match go on. I mean, look, I get it. I get it. I think we all get it that, Tony Khan is living vicariously through what he has said. His company is wrestling first, entertainment story second. I understand that. And I do understand and respect that he's the kind of boss that wants everybody, and I mean everybody, to have an opportunity to shine or wants to shine on the card. I understand that. We all understand that. We can kind of respect that. But in the process, even though we can understand that he wants everybody to have an opportunity to live out their dream, to prove the best in the ring, even though we can all understand that, Tony himself needs to wake up and realize, maybe if I shave off, a few matches and just say, hey, you're going to see these matches on the post-Double or Nothing edition of Dynamite or the post-Double or Nothing edition of Collision, then so be it. It's fine. Nothing to worry about. It's fine. And I'm sure the talent would appreciate it. But he obviously doesn't see that because he's about basically the wrestling first and everything else second. And also the fact that he just wants, in his mind, to prove he's a nice boss, he's a kind-hearted boss, by giving everybody an opportunity to shine, not considering that the talent that he's given the opportunity to has to sit in the locker room, get themselves ready, just to find out, oh yeah, here's the lineup, here's how the match card's going to be set up, and oh, by the way, Paragon, Adam Cole, Roderick Strong, Kyle O'Reilly, Paragon, Adam Cole, Roderick Strong, Kyle O'Reilly. Guess what? Your match with the Don Callis family, Josh Alexander, Takeshita, Kyle Fletcher, that match, yeah, we could have it open up the show and then go to Mercedes and Jamie Hayter after that. But no, we're not going to do that. No. When your match is going to take place? Sure. What's it going to take place? Oh, I'll tell you when it's going to take place. It's going to take place before the main event, which is going to be Adam Page and Will Ospreay. And if you're Paragon, if you're Adam Cole, you're Roderick Strong, you're Kyle O'Reilly, you're like, okay, that's no problem. We'll probably be, out to the ring maybe before 8 o'clock, whatever, 8 Pacific time, where I live, 11 o'clock Eastern time, whatever. You're like, yeah, we'll be fine with that. That's not a problem. Guess what? They're not even out to the ring into almost 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 40 to 35 minutes before midnight Eastern and 9 o'clock Pacific. That's it. They're not out there until almost 8:30, 8:35, or 8:25 around that time frame. And then, if you're Adam Page and you're Will Ospreay, and you know your main event, and you know you're going to have to go out there and bring it, you're looking at the time thinking, man, it's almost midnight on the East Coast, and it's almost 9 here, and we're expected to still go out there and do it? Okay, fine, we'll do our job, but you can't tell me in the back of their mind, in the back of their minds, you can't tell me that they weren't frustrated. Like, they were professionals. I'll give them that. I'll give them respect in that. They were professional enough to go out, do their job, get people excited, for this matchup, and try to steal the show as the main event. I'll give them the respect for the fact that they were professional enough to do it, but you can't tell me in the back of their minds they're thinking, crap, it's almost midnight on the East Coast. It's almost 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock out here. I don't know what time zone New Mexico goes by. I think they go by mountain. So it's almost 10 o'clock out there. And they're having to go on at 9:45 and finish at 10:15, literally 75 minutes before midnight. You can't tell me in the back of their mind they're thinking we got to be, they're basically upset about the fact that they're going on literally 2 hours and 15 minutes away from midnight, 135 minutes away from midnight. You can't tell me that wasn't going through their minds. But being professional, they realized that despite that, they had to go and put on a good show, a good match. And they did. Everybody liked the match, no doubt. But what's interesting about this, and this is no joke, you can look it up on social media, no matter what people will tell you. But you look online, there are pictures, there are video of people leaving the arena just as the main event is happening. Right after Anarchy in the arena, there are people leaving, just as the six-man tag is happening, and there are people leaving just as the main event between Hangman and Will is happening. You cannot tell me that doesn't visually show you that there is a problem. Because there is. If you have the people attending this event that probably paid money for their tickets, no matter if it's nosebleed or front row or whatever, you cannot tell me that they don't look at their time, and think, oh my gosh, it's almost 10:15 or it's almost 10 o'clock. I got to be at work the next day. You can't tell me that doesn't frustrate them, especially if they drove 75 miles to Albuquerque from wherever they lived. Just to attend this show, maybe by themselves, maybe with their friends, maybe with their kids, their family. You can't tell me that doesn't frustrate them, knowing they probably won't get home until almost midnight. You can't tell me that doesn't frustrate them, because it does. It does, and Tony Khan doesn't realize this. Again, it's all right that with your WrestleMania-like events, like All In Full Gear, if you will, or basically for, like I said, with TNA, like Slammiversary or Bound for Glory, or even back in the day, Starrcade for WCW and so on. It's all right to once in a while. It's all right once in a while to basically go out and have a long show. It's all right to say, hey, we might run 4 hours. That's fine, because that's your big show of the year. That's fine. That's okay. WWE has an excuse to do that when it comes to the Rumble, because of the Rumble matches themselves. WrestleMania, because it's WrestleMania. SummerSlam, Survivor Series, even to an extent Money in the Bank. They have a reason, because they are important. They have, meaning to them. They've had build to them. They have reason for the men and women being on these cards to go out and show why they are the best at what they do. So there is reason. And the other thing too, and I don't like making this comparison, but you don't see TNA, you don't see WWE, even MLW, going beyond 4 hours, with their regular events. You don't. You don't see that. But you see it here. And why? Because again, Tony has this mentality, fans want wrestling more than anything else. And yeah, I understand he wants to view AEW as a sports league. I get it. That's a great selling point. But the thing is, sometimes you have to wake up and realize that maybe less is better. Less is better. Just because you're going to, put on 12 matches doesn't mean you have to put 12 doesn't mean you tell all the people on those 12 matches, hey, take as long as you want, wrestle as long as you want, until we get to the finish. Do your thing, steal the show, go ahead. No. You basically look at the matches that are that people are more invested in, that are interested in, and you focus on those for your main card. And if you want to at least add a non-important match or two, then go and do it for the pre-show, the 0 hour, and you should be fine. You should be fine. But Tony's not realizing that, less is better, not more is better. I mean, JD from NY206 of Off the Script, he said this on Tuesday Night Titans last night. He said this. He said basically, as they were getting to the main event, the Owen Hart final for the men between Hangman and Ospreay, he said he felt like taking a pillow and falling asleep, on the floor because of how long the show was dragging. Look, again, it's understandable you want to be a nice boss and you want to give everybody the opportunity to shine. I understand that. I get it. There's no denying that, all right? There's no denying that. But sometimes even nice bosses have to wake up and realize that they can't give everybody an opportunity to shine. That they gotta cut some corners and promise that the post pay-per-view edition of Dynamite and Collision will be dedicated to those that didn't get their matches as promised on the pay-per-view. They will be getting their matches on those shows, and those shows will be dedicated to those that didn't get an opportunity to be on the pay-per-view. That's what he should do. That way, everybody gets the opportunity to shine. They get a pay-per-view payday, even on the post pay-per-view editions of Dynamite and Collision, and everyone's happy. But honestly, if he keeps doing this, he's going to lose a lot more talents. You're going to have a lot more talents wanting out of AEW and out of their contracts a lot sooner than expected. And that's the truth. And they will use their lawyers to make that happen. They'll remind Tony of what he said, that, hey, if they don't want to be here, that's fine, I'll let them go. They will remind him of that, just to get out of there, because he's not listening. He's not giving fans what they ask for. And that's bad. That is bad. Because, again, when you have the fans frustrated at home and in attendance, as well as you have the roster frustrated, and oh, by the way, the roster is also reportedly banged up because of this stuff, Tony needs to wake up and realize less is more, not more is needed. Okay? Less is more, less is great, not more is great. That's what he's got to wake up and realize. Because again, if he doesn't, and you have the roster coming out and saying that they are frustrated and they're also banged up, like I said, there are some notable names on there that will go to those lawyers, have them remind Tony of what he said, of, hey, you don't want to be here, go ahead and leave. And they'll get out of their contracts. And I guarantee you, they'll go back to WWE. They will. Because they know that basically, even though they might be limited in some of the things they can do and say, that basically they'll see that not only are things different, under the Triple H and all that, but also Also, ladies and gentlemen, they'll realize that they don't have to worry about long-ass pay-per-views happening and having to wait till almost 2 hours to midnight Eastern time or 2 hours to 10 o'clock Mountain time, before they're able to have their match. Or an hour and a half to 12 midnight Eastern time, or hour and a half to 10 o'clock Mountain time to have the match go on. Because by then, you can't tell me they're looking in the rafters and seeing people going like, okay, let's go home. It's getting late. Got to go to work. Bye-bye. They're just walking out the door. You can't tell me that doesn't bother them because it does. But you know what? I wouldn't be surprised that some of those people that did walk, even if it was front row tickets, decent viewing tickets, whatever, I wouldn't be surprised if this is that these are people, I should say, that got their tickets for free. Because, yeah, that's another issue, too. Tony Khan is not realizing that his attendance, when it comes to these big venues for his pay-per-views and sometimes Dynamite and Collision, attendance is abysmal. Yeah, he can sell out all the other venues, the smaller venues, the theaters, the concert halls, and everything. The ECW 300 Arena, and all that. He could sell it out great. Internationally, he has no problem selling out the venues. Well, some he does. And all that, if you look at Grand Slam Australia this past year, or a few months ago, I should say. But outside of that, internationally, he has no problem there. I mean, he has sold out freaking Arena Mexico. Congratulations. No, congratulations on that. That's a great deal. But point I'm getting at is this, okay? When it comes to the bigger venues for the PLEs, or his pay-per-views, I should say, or even Dynamite and Collision, he has been reduced to have to what's the word? Basically, he's been forced to hand out free tickets. That's basically what it is. That's what it's been. Hey, you want to go attend a wrestling show? Here you go. Decent tickets. Go. Bye. That's what he's been reduced to. He doesn't realize that maybe even with his pay-per-views, until he gets that trust back with the fans, that just like with some Dynamites and Collisions he's done, maybe he should be booking the smaller venues too. Yeah, maybe he should. I mean, if there's one thing TNA is realizing, when it comes to their events, is that most of the time, booking the smaller venues is a little bit better. Yeah, I look at the I'm trying to find the right word to say. The easy for me to say, okay? Not USC, because they sold out the USC venue they were at, for the event. But the UC Ivan Arena, they didn't sell it out entirely. You could see empty seats and all that. But guess what? I'll give credit on TNA on one thing. They weren't ashamed to show the empty seats. They weren't ashamed to say, hey, we didn't pack it out, but we got fans. They weren't ashamed of that, all right? They weren't ashamed of that. But at least they're realizing that once in a while they could test the waters for bigger venues. And the bigger venues they have tested the waters with, they've had decent crowds, if not sellouts. And they're hoping the same for Slammiversary next month in Long Island. The thing is, Tony Khan should take a page out of that playbook and realize, hey, maybe for my pay-per-views, I should just go to the smaller venues knowing that I'll get a decent sellout. Because you know what? It's going to help him. Because if you do that, if Tony Khan does that, and it comes off looking good, on pay-per-view, if it comes off looking good on pay-per-view, it's going to get people, to notice. Hey, he sold out this little venue. There's not a single seat to be had. No tickets were handed out for free. He does that. It's going to be more appealing to the fans. Being like, oh, I want to be part of that crowd. I want to be part of the action. And then over time, he'll start noticing more fans seeing these sellout venues, these smaller venues, not just for Dynamites and Collisions, but for his pay-per-views. And they'll allow him to build up enough of a returning fan base or a new fan base so that he can finally take the chance to sell out certain venues that he's trying to sell out now. Venues he has to basically hand out tickets for sometimes. And that's not good. Point is this. Tony Khan, and I've said this before, others have said this before, He has potential to be a great promoter, but he is getting mixed signals, and those mixed signals are basically being a fan and trying to be the boss that satisfies his employees. That's the issue. And being a boss, and by getting those mixed signals, he's letting himself be manipulated by those that shouldn't be in charge, in creative control, or have a final say. He shouldn't. He shouldn't be, allowing that to happen, but he's getting these mixed signals. He wants to be a fan. He's a fan. But he also wants to be the kind boss that doesn't alienate his talent. That's great, but sometimes you have to get tough. You have to put your foot down. He doesn't want to do that. And that's not good. That's not good. And again, the reason for that mixed signal is basically part of the reason why he's going with these long-ass shows. He wants to be nice and say, "Oh, don't worry, all of you are going to be on the show. Don't worry, ho, 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 ho." No, Tony, no. You got to put your foot down. This is why WWE, over the years, has decided to put the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal on SmackDown. Because, yes, they could put it on WrestleMania, but they know SmackDown's part of WrestleMania week and weekend. So why not put it there? Make it feel important, and everything. Make it feel important. But outside of that, guys, it's just, Tony Khan, when it comes to AEW, still has a lot to learn. And the two main things he has to learn: stop doing long shows. Well, not two things, but three things, actually. The first thing, stop doing long shows. Number two, compromise those that you promised would be on these shows by saying, "Hey, I'll dedicate the post-pay-per-view edition of Dynamite and Collision to you guys," and that's it. And three, start learning to book smaller venues for his pay-per-views, just like he does on occasions for Dynamite and Collision. Because he does that, the results will be better visually and money-wise. But yeah, he still has a lot to learn. But let me know what your thoughts are, guys. Comment down below, like the video, ring the bell for notifications, subscribe to the channel, share the video, and everything. And until next time, guys, I will talk to you later. But comment down below and in the comment section during the premiere and the live chat, if you will. And until next time, talk to you all later.